Commander Vex 9 of the Trilaxian High Council adjusted his 6 eye stalks with what could only be described as smug satisfaction. The holographic display before him showed the barren planet designated as Testing Ground Alpha 7, where their latest entertainment venture was about to begin. Attention, esteemed viewers across the galaxy. Vex 9 announced into the broadcasting array, his mandibles clicking with excitement. Welcome to the most anticipated event of the millennium, survival of the primitives. The three-dimensional audience counter spiraled upward as billions of civilized beings tuned in from across known space. This was going to be spectacular. Absolutely, gloriously spectacular. Today, we've gathered representatives from 12 different primitive species, Vex 9 continued, his voice dripping with theatrical flair. Each civilization has been carefully selected for their, shall we say, charmingly backwards nature. And no advanced technology, no energy weapons, no quantum communicators, just their bare hands, primitive brains, and whatever pathetic survival instincts evolution blessed them with. Sub-Commander Clicks 44 floated nearby, her gelatinous form pulsing with anticipation. The betting pools are at record highs, Commander. The Zephyrians are heavily favored to win, given their natural armor plating. Naturally, Vex 9 replied, waving a dismissive tentacle, those rock-skinned brutes should dominate easily. The betting odds have them at 3-to-1 favorites. On the massive view screen, 12 different species materialized on the planet's surface via teleportation beams. The Zephyrians immediately began their trademark intimidation display, pounding their stone-like chests and roaring. The aquatic morphlings clustered together near a water source, their translucent bodies shimmering nervously. The vine walkers from Sector 9 began their slow, methodical movement toward elevated terrain. And then there were the humans. Ah yes, Vex 9 chuckled, zooming the camera in on two unremarkable bipedal creatures, that species designation. Let me check my notes, humans from the third planet in the Sol system. Look at them. Pink, squishy, no natural weapons, no protective hide, no enhanced sensory organs. The poor things are practically naked. The male human, who went by the designation Marcus Kane, was already scanning their immediate surroundings with an intensity that seemed almost calculating. His companion, Elena Vasquez, was doing something equally peculiar. She was gathering dried plant matter. What in the 17 moons is she doing? Clicks 44 wondered aloud. Probably trying to make a nest. Vex 9 replied with a laugh that sounded like grinding metal. How adorable. The primitive thinks she's a bird, but Elena wasn't making a nest. She was doing something that would have made every civilized being in the galaxy pause their afternoon energy gel consumption if they had understood what they were witnessing. She was making fire. Marcus, hand me those flint stones, Elena said calmly. As if requesting tea at a social gathering, Marcus, meanwhile, had found a sturdy branch and was already working on sharpening it against a rough rock. His movements were efficient, practiced, almost methodical. Fire coming right up, he replied, as casually as if they were camping in their backyard instead of fighting for their lives on an alien world. Vex 9's eye stalks swiveled in confusion. What are they muttering about? Some kind of primitive ritual dance? The Zephyrians had already claimed the high ground, using their natural strength to move boulders and create a defensive position. The crystalline beings were constructing elaborate geometric shelters that sparkled in the alien sunlight. The Hive Mind Collective was working with perfect coordination to dig underground tunnels. And the humans? The humans were sitting calmly next to a pile of sticks. Then Elena struck flint against steel. The first spark made Clicks 44's gelatinous form quiver slightly. The second spark made her pulse faster. But when the third spark caught the tinder and began to grow into actual, honest to the universe fire. What in the name of the eternal void is that? Vex 9 shrieked. All 6 eye stalks converging on the human pair. The flame danced merrily in Elena's cupped hands as she carefully fed it with small twigs, then larger ones. Within minutes, they had a proper campfire burning steadily. Oh that, said Dr. Theta Prime, the lead xenobiologist, floating over with an air of academic boredom. It's called combustion. Chemical reaction between organic matter and oxygen. Quite primitive, really. Creates heat and light through rapid oxidation. But that's, Vex 9 sputtered, that's controlled energy manipulation. Technically, yes, Dr. Theta Prime admitted, but it's so basic that we hardly consider it technology. After all, it's just burning things, As if controlled fire wasn't the foundation upon which every single advanced civilization in the galaxy had built their empire. as if the ability to harness combustion wasn't the first step toward energy manipulation that eventually led to faster-than-light travel. But the humans weren't done with their little show. Marcus had finished sharpening his stick and was now working on something else. Using rocks and his sharpened branch, he was creating what could only be described as a primitive spear. But then he did something that made several advanced civilizations in the viewing audience choke on their nutrient solutions. He made more spears. Lots more spears. Elena, how's our arsenal coming along? Marcus called out cheerfully. Give me 10 more minutes and we'll have enough pointed sticks to arm a small rebellion, she replied, busy crafting what appeared to be a bow from flexible wood and some kind of fibrous string she'd extracted from plant material. A bow. A projectile weapon that could kill at range. The Zephyrians, who had been confidently assuming their dominance, suddenly looked a lot less intimidating when faced with humans who could kill them from a distance without getting close to those massive stone fists. This is irregular, Vex 9 muttered, his confidence evaporating faster than liquid methane in a solar flare. The rules clearly state no advanced technology. Fire and pointy sticks aren't advanced technology. Dr. Theta Prime replied dismissively. My younglings learn about combustion in their first educational cycle. It's elementary science. Elementary science. The beings watching this broadcast were learning that what they considered elementary science was apparently completely unknown to 11 of the 12 species they'd selected for this entertainment venture. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, things were getting interesting. The aquatic morphlings had encountered their first major problem. The water source they'd claimed was beautiful and life-sustaining, but it was also freezing cold during the planet's night cycle. Without any method of generating heat, they were becoming sluggish and vulnerable. The humans, sitting comfortably next to their controlled inferno, were roasting some kind of local fruit they'd found and having what appeared to be a casual conversation about tactical advantages. So, what do you think? Marcus asked, gesturing toward the other species with a skewered piece of fruit. The rock guys are strong but slow. Those crystal people are organized but brittle. The water folks look like they're already struggling with temperature regulation. The plant walkers are interesting, Elena mused, testing the draw strength of her improvised bow. They're mobile, and seem to have some kind of photosynthetic ability, but I bet they're vulnerable to fire. Fire. They were discussing using fire as a weapon. Vex 9's mandibles were clicking so rapidly they sounded like a percussion instrument having a breakdown. They're strategizing. Using thermal energy as both a survival tool and a potential weapon. Well, of course they are, Dr. Theta Prime said, though he was beginning to sound less bored and more concerned. Basic thermodynamics. Heat equals survival advantage. Any species that's mastered combustion would naturally understand its applications. Any species that's mastered combustion. The problem was becoming clear. The Trilaxian High Council had assumed that no advanced technology meant these species would be helpless. They'd failed to consider that some species might have mastered the fundamentals so thoroughly that they didn't need advanced technology. As the first night fell on Testing Ground Alpha 7, the differences became starkly apparent. The Zephyrians huddled together in their stone fortress, trying to conserve body heat. The crystalline beings created beautiful geometric patterns but had no source of warmth. The aquatic morphlings were becoming increasingly sluggish as temperatures dropped. And the humans? The humans had built a thriving camp. They had fire for warmth and light. They had weapons for defense and hunting. They had tools for food preparation and shelter construction. While other species struggled with the basic challenge of surviving their first night, Marcus and Elena were sitting comfortably, cooking dinner, and planning their next day's activities. Tomorrow we should probably scout for better shelter materials, Elena suggested, turning a skewered piece of meat over the flames. Maybe set up some traps for small game. Traps. Hunting implements designed to capture prey without direct confrontation. Good thinking, Marcus agreed. And we should probably establish a perimeter. Mark our territory with some kind of warning system. Territory marking. Strategic area denial. The viewing audience across the galaxy was beginning to understand that they weren't watching a primitive survival struggle, that they were watching a masterclass in applied technology by beings who had apparently learned to thrive in hostile environments using nothing but their wits and some rocks. Commander. Clicks 44 whispered urgently, her gelatinous form trembling with what might have been fear. The betting pools are going insane. The odds on the humans just shifted from 50-1 long shots to 3-1 favorites. That's impossible, Vex 9 protested. They're primitives. Look at them. They don't even have proper scales or natural armor. But as he watched, Marcus was demonstrating why natural armor might be overrated. Using his spear and the leverage advantage of his bipedal stance, he was practicing combat techniques that would allow him to strike vital points on larger, stronger opponents while staying out of reach of their natural weapons. Elena, meanwhile, was testing her bow's accuracy by hitting targets at increasingly impressive distances. She wasn't just throwing projectiles and hoping for the best. She was calculating trajectory, accounting for wind resistance, and adjusting her aim based on environmental factors. That they were applying physics. Advanced physics. The kind of physics that civilized species needed computers to calculate, these humans were doing in their heads while sitting around a campfire. As the night deepened, other species began to encounter serious problems. The hive mind collective discovered that their underground tunnels were filling with water from an unexpected underground stream. The vinewalkers found that the elevated terrain they'd claimed was unstable and beginning to collapse. The Arctic dwellers, adapted for cold environments, were struggling with the planet's unexpectedly warm daytime temperatures. But the humans seemed to be thriving. They'd identified the local ecosystem's food sources, established reliable water procurement methods, created defensive positions, developed hunting strategies, and built the infrastructure necessary for long-term survival, all in less than one planetary rotation. Dr. Theta Prime, Vex 9 said slowly, his voice carrying the weight of dawning realization. Exactly how primitive are these humans? The xenobiologist consulted his datapad with increasing concern. Well, they haven't achieved faster than light travel. They don't have quantum computing, no antimatter manipulation, no gravitational field generators. But what do they have? A long pause. Fire, tools, weapons, agriculture, metallurgy, engineering, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, strategic thinking, tactical planning, social organization, communication systems, artistic expression, and apparently an almost instinctive understanding of survival mechanics. The list hung in the air like an accusation. Fire, tools, and weapons. The three foundations of technological civilization. And while other species were struggling with basic survival, the humans had already mastered all three and were busy applying them in increasingly sophisticated ways. Commander, Clicks 44 said quietly, I think we may have made a slight miscalculation. It's a slight miscalculation. That was like calling a supernova a slight increase in stellar brightness. As the first night on testing ground Alpha 7 came to an end, the humans were sleeping peacefully next to their controlled fire, their weapons within easy reach, their shelter secure, and their food supply established. Every other species was struggling just to survive until morning. And somewhere in the depths of space, billions of civilized beings were beginning to suspect that maybe, just maybe, they were about to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. The primitives were winning. Day 2 dawned on testing ground Alpha 7, and Commander Vex 9 was seriously considering updating his resume. The holographic display showed a planet that had become less of an entertainment venue and more of a masterclass in applied survival theory. Ratings update, Commander Clicks 44 announced, her gelatinous form quivering with what might have been excitement or terror. We've broken every viewership record in galactic broadcasting history. 17 billion beings are now watching, and the Intergalactic News Network is calling this the most significant anthropological event of the millennium. Anthropological event? Vex 9 squeaked, his 6 eye stalks drooping with dread. This was supposed to be mindless entertainment. On screen, Marcus was demonstrating something that made Dr. Theta Prime's tentacles curl with scientific fascination and bureaucratic horror. He was teaching Elena how to start a fire using nothing but friction between two pieces of wood. You see, Marcus explained patiently, as if conducting a university lecture, the key is maintaining consistent pressure while gradually increasing the speed of rotation. The wood fibers heat up, create char, and eventually, a thin wisp of smoke curled upward. Ignition. Elena exclaimed triumphantly as the spark caught her prepared tinder bundle. They had just demonstrated the ability to create fire without tools, using nothing but knowledge, technique, and patience. That's impossible, whispered Sub-Lieutenant Korth 12, a young Trilaxian who'd been monitoring the technical aspects of the broadcast. Fire creation requires ignition sources and chemical accelerants. Energy input devices. Apparently not, Dr. Theta Prime muttered, furiously taking notes. They're generating sufficient thermal energy through kinetic friction to achieve combustion temperatures. It's brilliant. Primitive, but absolutely brilliant. Meanwhile, the other contestants were experiencing what could politely be called significant challenges. The Zephyrians had discovered that their stone fortress, while impressive, was actually a tactical nightmare. The rocks they'd moved to create walls had also blocked their escape routes. When the local predators arrived that morning, massive six-legged creatures with acid-dripping mandibles, the rock-skinned aliens found themselves trapped in their own defensive position. The crystalline beings were facing a different but equally serious problem. Their beautiful geometric shelters were perfectly designed for their homeworld's stable environment. On testing ground Alpha 7, with its variable weather patterns, the structures were proving about as useful as decorative art installations. The aquatic morphlings had lasted exactly 18 hours before their team leader made a desperate decision. Unable to regulate their body temperature and facing dehydration, despite being near water, they activated their emergency beacon. First elimination of the competition, Vex 9 announced with forced enthusiasm, though his voice cracked slightly. The aquatic morphlings have chosen to withdraw from survival of the primitives, 3 species down, 9 to go. And the humans hadn't even broken stride. Elena had spent the morning weaving what appeared to be a net from plant fibers. Not just any net, but a sophisticated trap system with trigger mechanisms and tension release points. She was essentially creating automated hunting equipment using nothing but vegetation and geometric principles. And Marcus, I've got the rabbit snares set up along their primary movement corridors, she called out cheerfully. The fish trap should be ready by afternoon. Fish trap. She was going to catch aquatic protein sources using applied engineering. Excellent, Marcus replied from where he was doing something equally disturbing to galactic sensibilities. He was making pottery. Not crude, lumpy attempts at containers, but actual functional ceramics using clay, water, and controlled fire temperatures. The water purification system should be operational once these vessels are properly fired, he explained to no one in particular, testing the thickness of a clay pot with the casual expertise of someone who'd been making cookware their entire life. Water purification. They were addressing contamination issues through thermal processing and filtration. Commander, Dr. Theta Prime said slowly, I think we need to discuss something rather urgent. What now? Vex 9 demanded, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. These humans aren't primitive. The statement hung in the control room like a toxic gas cloud. Of course they're primitive. Vex 9 protested. Look at them. No advanced technology, no energy weapons, no quantum anything. No, Dr. Theta Prime continued, his voice taking on the terrible certainty of a scientist delivering bad news. They have advanced technology. They're just using the foundation-level applications that we've forgotten existed. He gestured toward the screen where Elena was explaining trap mechanics to Marcus with the casual confidence of a master engineer. We define advanced technology as devices that require industrial manufacturing, computer assistance, and energy grid support, Dr. Theta Prime continued. But what if advanced technology is actually the ability to create solutions using available resources and applied knowledge? The implications were staggering. On the planet's surface, the morning's first major confrontation was beginning. The Arctic dwellers, struggling with heat management, had decided to claim the humans' water source. Their leader, a massive white-furred biped with natural ice manipulation abilities, approached the human camp with obvious hostile intent. This should be interesting. Clicks 44 murmured. The Arctic dwellers are natural predators, enhanced strength, temperature manipulation, razor-sharp claws. Marcus looked up from his pottery work as the alien approached. The creature was easily twice his size, with arms that could probably crush stone and claws that gleamed like metallic knives. Elena, Marcus said conversationally, we have a visitor. Hostile? She asked, not even looking up from her net weaving. Probably. Standard response protocol? I think so. Standard response protocol. They had established tactical procedures for dealing with threats. The Arctic dweller leader began his intimidation display, roaring and striking the ground with claws that left deep gouges in the rocky soil. It was an impressive demonstration of raw physical power. Marcus responded by picking up his spear and standing calmly in a balanced stance that somehow managed to look both relaxed and ready for violence. The alien charged. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists across the galaxy for generations to come. Marcus didn't try to match the creature's strength or engage in direct combat. Instead, he used the spear's reach advantage to keep the alien at a distance while maneuvering to control the battlefield positioning. When the creature lunged, Marcus sidestepped and used its own momentum to redirect the attack, causing the massive alien to stumble past him. Elena, meanwhile, had calmly retrieved her bow and put an arrow through the creature's shoulder with surgical precision. The Arctic dweller stopped, stared at the wooden shaft protruding from its arm, and made a sound that universal translators interpreted as profound confusion. "We don't want to fight," Marcus said clearly, his spear still held in ready position, "but we will if we have to. Your choice." The alien looked at the two humans, then at the arrow in its shoulder, then at the obvious defensive advantages of their camp position. After a moment that seemed to last forever, it pulled out the arrow, dropped it on the ground, and walked away. Conflict resolution through superior tactical positioning and measured force application, Dr. Theta Prime whispered in awe. They didn't escalate to lethal violence, but they demonstrated capability and resolve. They're using psychology, Vex 9 realized with growing horror. They're fighting with their minds as much as their weapons. The day progressed with increasingly concerning developments. Elena's traps began producing results. Small animals, fish, edible plants processed through methods that extracted maximum nutritional value. The humans weren't just surviving, they were thriving. Marcus completed his water purification system and began producing what could only be described as engineering-grade ceramics using nothing but dirt, water, and controlled combustion. By afternoon, they had expanded their camp into something resembling a small settlement. Defensive positions, resource processing stations, food storage systems, and what appeared to be a workshop area where they were manufacturing increasingly sophisticated tools. "They're not surviving," Clicks 44 observed with something approaching admiration. "They're colonizing. The other species, meanwhile, were failing at an accelerating rate. The Hive Mind Collective had encountered a fundamental problem with their perfect coordination. When part of their group was attacked by the local predators, the psychic feedback loop caused a cascading failure that left them temporarily unable to function as a unit. The Vine Walkers discovered that their slow, methodical approach to movement made them perfect targets for the fast, aggressive native wildlife. The gaseous cloud beings found that the planet's atmospheric composition caused them to gradually lose cohesion. They were literally evaporating. By the time the second night fell, 5 more species had activated their emergency beacons. Only 4 non-human species remained: the Zephyrians, the crystalline beings, the metal-eating swarm, and the energy parasites. And the humans were building what appeared to be a fortress. "This is no longer a survival competition," Vex 9 announced to his control room staff, his voice hollow with defeat. "This is a colonization demonstration." Marcus and Elena had spent the day constructing defensive walls, establishing water systems, creating food storage facilities, and manufacturing an increasingly impressive array of tools and weapons. They had essentially built the foundation of a permanent settlement. But they weren't done. As night approached, Elena was working on something that made Dr. Theta Prime's academic composure finally crack completely. She was making metal. Using locally available iron ore, controlled fire temperatures, and techniques that appeared to involve manipulating chemical reactions through temperature and atmospheric control. She was smelting raw materials into worked metal implements. "That's metallurgy," Dr. Theta Prime shrieked. "She's performing industrial chemistry using fire and rocks." "Is that bad?" Korth 12 asked nervously. "It's the foundation of technological civilization," Dr. Theta Prime explained frantically. "Controlled metallurgy leads to advanced tool creation, which leads to mechanical engineering, which leads to industrial manufacturing, which leads to..." He trailed off as the implications became clear. "Which leads to space flight," Vex 9 finished quietly. On the screen, Elena was casually producing metal arrow points with the relaxed confidence of someone who'd been performing advanced chemistry her entire life. The third day began with an announcement that changed everything. "Attention viewers across the galaxy," Vex 9 said into the broadcasting array, his voice carrying the weight of impending doom. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, the rules of survival of the primitives are being modified." The rule changes were unprecedented. Instead of elimination-based competition, the event was being reclassified as Advanced Survival Techniques Demonstration. Instead of primitive species competing for entertainment, it was now being marketed as educational content for technological development studies. Instead of laughing at backwards aliens, the galaxy was now taking notes. The Zephyrians, recognizing the shift in dynamics, approached the human camp under what appeared to be a flag of truce. Their leader, a massive stone-skinned warrior named Krex Tor, made a proposal that stunned everyone watching. "Humans," he rumbled in his gravelly voice, "we request alliance. We provide strength and defense. You provide fire and metal weapons." Marcus and Elena exchanged a look that somehow communicated an entire diplomatic negotiation. "Acceptable," Elena replied. "We'll teach you basic metallurgy in exchange for construction assistance and defense cooperation." They were forming alliances, creating trade agreements, establishing the basic diplomatic and economic structures that advanced civilizations used to organize themselves. The crystalline beings, not to be outdone, offered their mathematical precision and geometric construction expertise in exchange for thermal regulation assistance and tool-making instruction. Within hours, the human camp had become the center of an interspecies cooperation network. "Commander," Clicks 44 said quietly, "the betting pools have collapsed. No one knows what to bet on anymore." "What do you mean?" Vex 9 asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know. "The humans aren't competing anymore. They're teaching. The other species aren't trying to eliminate them, they're trying to learn from them." On screen, Marcus was demonstrating fire-starting techniques to a group of fascinated aliens while Elena conducted what appeared to be a basic engineering seminar using stick diagrams drawn in the dirt. "The survival competition has become a technology transfer program," Dr. Theta Prime observed with scientific wonder. "They're not trying to win. They're trying to elevate everyone." The final day of what had once been called survival of the primitives dawned on a transformed landscape. The human camp had become a small city, multiple species working together, sharing knowledge, creating tools, building structures, and establishing what could only be described as the foundation of a multi-species civilization. Elena had taught metallurgy to the Zephyrians, who used their natural strength to create advanced smithing techniques. Marcus had shown the crystalline beings how to use fire for thermal regulation, leading to architectural innovations that combined their geometric precision with human engineering principles. The metal-eating swarm had learned to process raw materials more efficiently, while the energy parasites discovered that controlled combustion provided a more sustainable energy source than their traditional prey-draining methods. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted sentient beings," Vex 9 announced to the galaxy with a mixture of defeat and genuine admiration, "I present the winners of whatever this has become, the humans of Sol 3 and their interspecies cooperative civilization project." The final score wasn't about elimination or survival, it was about transformation. Marcus and Elena had taken a hostile environment and a group of competing species and created the beginning of something unprecedented. It's a cooperative multi-species society based on shared knowledge and mutual benefit. "Commander," Clicks 44 said as the broadcast ended, "what do we tell the High Council?" Vex 9 looked at the screen showing happy aliens working together around human-built fires, using human-designed tools, living in human-engineered shelters, and sharing human-discovered techniques. We tell them," he said slowly, "that we accidentally discovered something terrifying." "What's that?" "Humans aren't primitive because they lack advanced technology," Vex 9 explained with the horrible clarity of complete understanding. "They're advanced because they don't need it." The Great Galactic Blunder, as historians would later call it, had ended not with primitive entertainment, but with the inadvertent demonstration that the most dangerous species in the galaxy might be the ones who could build civilization from scratch using nothing but rocks, sticks, and fire. And somewhere in the depths of space, military strategists were having very serious conversations about what it meant to encounter a species that treated the foundation of all technology as basic survival skills. The humans had won by redefining what winning meant, and the galaxy would never be the same.